The Venezuelan president, Nicolas Maduro, says he wants a meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump. During a lengthy address to members of the new Constitutional Assembly, Maduro instructed the nation's foreign minister to set the meeting up. Initiate negotiations, Chancellor, so I can have a personal conversation with Donald Trump. Initiate negotiations so I can have a telephone conversation with Donald Trump. Because if I travel to New York in a few weeks to the United Nations to have a meeting with Donald Trump, if you are so interested in Venezuela, here I am. Here is the chief of your interest, Nicolas Maduro Moros, constitutional president of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. Mr. Donald Trump, here is my hand. If it's about hands, here is my word. The Trump administration has called Maduro a dictator and issued sanctions against him and more than 24 other former and current officials.
The drama of Venezuela's political conflict is being carried out against the backdrop of its worst economic crisis in decades, with runaway inflation far outstripping the average wage. Around 82% of Venezuelan households are living in poverty. Supermarket shelves are empty, making the daily priority the search for just the basics. News of a delivery triggers massive queues. There are no medicines, there's nothing. I want to tell President Maduro to stop the lies, because if he wants, we can take him into our homes and show him what's in our refrigerators. Euronews' correspondent says citizens form long queues every day to obtain products such as milk, pasta or rice. The Constituent Assembly President, Delcy Rodriguez, has said its members will face the economic crisis that, in her judgment, is being promoted from abroad. Around half of Venezuelan workers are engaged in the so-called informal economy to survive, but that doesn't qualify them for social security. About 40% of the population is eating less than 3 times a day. It could be 1 or 2 times a day. Many Venezuelans have been forced to eat food scavenged from waste bins. Often it's the only food they have each day. This is not just happening at the back of restaurants and cafes, but on middle-class housing estates. While the opposition is blaming President Maduro for the mismanagement of the economy, he still has a strong core of support who see the crisis in terms of a class war. Rich people do not like poor people, and they will never fight for our needs and priorities. Our correspondent adds, specialists in economic issues say that the government will have an uphill battle because for this year inflation is running at around 1,100%.
As the rhetoric ratchets up between Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un, fears of a conflict are multiplying. The warning is that any U.S. strike on North Korea could provoke a catastrophic response towards its southern neighbor.
Well, with 10,000 tubes of artillery that can hit Seoul without moving, with a 1 million-man army close to the demilitarized zone, South Korea is clearly in a very dire military situation. The more targets you bomb on North Korean soil, the higher the potential or likelihood of an all-out war on the peninsula. That could lead to hundreds of thousands of casualties or millions of casualties in both South Korea and Japan.
With reportedly up to 60 nuclear weapons and a miniature nuclear warhead for missiles, will Kim now step back from the brink?
Donald Trump has increased his rhetoric toward North Korea, saying it should be very, very nervous if it even thinks about attacking the United States or its allies. The U.S. president spoke to reporters in New Jersey, where he was meeting his national security team.
Mr. President, the North Koreans said yesterday that your statement on Tuesday was nonsense. That's the word that they used. Do you have any response to that?
Well, I don't think they mean that, and I think it's the first time they've heard it like they heard it. And frankly, the people that were questioning that statement, was it too tough? Maybe it wasn't tough enough. The people of this country should be very comfortable. And I will tell you this, if North Korea does anything in terms of even thinking about attack of anybody that we love or we represent or our allies or us, they can be very, very nervous. I'll tell you what, and they should be very nervous, because things will happen to them like they never thought possible.
His comments come after Pyongyang warned that a plan to fire 4 missiles near the U.S. Pacific territory of Guam, home to an American air and naval base, will be ready in days. Denmark is the latest European country to discover eggs contaminated with insecticide in its food chain. 20 tons of the tainted eggs have been sold, according to the country's Food Safety Authority. The boiled and peeled eggs were mainly distributed to cafeterias, cafes and catering firms.
It's
a big case, and the analysis we carried out shows that the level of fipronil in these eggs is illegal, but there are no urgent health risks. Denegg Products, who've imported the eggs, are now in the process of telling their customers to stop using them. Dutch police arrested 2 company directors as part of an investigation to get to the bottom of the scandal. 8 houses were searched in the Netherlands, cars and real estate have been seized, and also a bank account. 2 managing directors have been arrested. 11 searches spread throughout the country, and those searches incriminating evidence have been taken into consideration. The evidence of contamination emerged this month when Aldi pulled products off the shelves after fipronil was detected in French, Belgian and Dutch poultry farms. US-backed Syrian forces say they have Islamic State fighters surrounded in central Raqqa, but driving them out of the northern Syrian city could take months. Units of the Syrian Democratic Forces, an alliance dominated by the Kurdish YPG, joined forces in Raqqa's southern districts on Tuesday, encircling the militants in the city centre. Our operation continues and we're now in Raqqa province, hopefully advancing, says Mohammed. A small number of IS fighters remain and we will get them. People will be able to come back home. Syrians who fled the embattled city say conditions are dire. At this village in the north, they're receiving bread and water, but it's not enough to see them through the extreme heat. A handful of civilians are able to escape the city each day, but according to the UN, up to 50,000 civilians remain trapped.
At least 36 people have been killed and more than a dozen others injured in a coach crash in China. It happened late on Thursday night in Shanxi province when the packed bus smashed into the wall of a tunnel. It's not clear what caused the crash, but China has a poor road safety record. World Health Organization figures from 2013 estimate that that year alone 250,000 people were killed on China's roads.
Televidente, nós vai break e ora nós back e repórter com nosso colega Carl Reiter.
Programa com mais de